Okay, so with surds, there are a few rules that we need to know. When you're timesing, okay, two surds together, we can write it as a single surd and multiply the numbers inside that surd, okay? Similarly then, when we're dividing, okay, because a fraction here just means we're dividing two surds, we can write it as one big surd and divide the terms inside. So in terms of how this works in practice, if they ask us to simplify this here, we can write this as one surd and multiply the numbers inside. Of course, you can work that out and you get 35 inside. So we've actually simplified it. So instead of writing this, we can say it's equal to this single surd here. Similar then with the division, the fraction that we've got here, you've got a surd on top, square root of 56, a surd on bottom, square root of 8. We can write that as one big surd and divide the numbers instead inside. Of course, you can work out 8 goes into 56 7 times. So you can actually work out that division. You get 7, and then that root that's over it just stays over there, and you have a root 7. So this is simplified by writing it as one root, and then you divide the numbers inside, and you get root 7 as your answer. Now in C, notice you've got a square, okay? You've got to square the root of 5. Now we know with squaring, times by itself, yeah? That's what squaring means. So in this case, root 5, when we square it, it'll be root 5 times root 5. And applying the rule that we learnt here, yeah, and that we did in A, we can then put it under one root, okay, and do 5 times 5 inside that one root. And you know, you work that out, and 5 times 5 is 25. And if you know your square numbers, okay, you'll know that square root of 25 actually works out to be 5. Okay, you can actually root it because 25 is a square number. Now, it's no coincidence that square root of 5 and then squared works out to be 5. There's no coincidence then. Similarly, if we have the root of 8 all squared, okay, it will actually come out to be 8, okay, if you were to work that out. And the reason why is, well, one, I've shown you by doing it this way, timesing by itself, and the surd by itself, and then you put it under one surd, 5 times 5, 25, and then you root it. The other reason to look at as well as to consider is, when we squaring a square root, they're kind of like opposite functions, aren't they? So you've got square root, and if you square it, you're sort of like undoing the square root, aren't you? You're going back to the start, so they cancel each other out, okay? So we end up with the number itself. Similarly here, yeah, you could prove it this way if you wanted to. Square root of 8 times square root of 8, and put it under 1, 8 times 8. So you get square root of 64 in there, which is 8. Okay, with D, now in this case we've got a cube. So what I'd advise you to do here when you're cubing is to write it out 3 times. Okay, because that's what cubing means, yeah? Times by itself and by itself again. And then take that pair there, okay, and appreciate that that's actually going to become 7. That pair there. If you work that out, that would be 7, yeah? Because it's like root 7 squared, this is, isn't it? In the same situation as we had in C. So you just get 7 when you do root 7 times root 7. You can prove it if you want to, going through that process. Times then this here at the end, the root 7, which we haven't used yet. So my answer will be 7 times root 7. We'll just write that as 7 root 7, okay? And we leave it like that. That's the simplified version. With E then, simplify the surd root 24. Okay, in this case, we've just got a single surd here. In terms of approaching this, what we need to do, we need to think of a pair of numbers that multiply to give 24. One of them has to be a square number. So you might think, well, 2 times 12 gives me 24. 2 times 12, that's good, but one of them has to be a square. So the other option is 4 times 6. 4 times 6 gives me 24. And actually 4 is a square number. And if I split this, using the rule we learned at the start, because we're allowed to do that, okay, separate them. Of course then I can square root 4, and I get 2. Square root of 4 is 2. Now square root of 6 we can't do, it's a surd, so we've got our simplified version here. So this will become 2 root 6, okay? So it is simpler because the number in the surd is smaller than what we started with.